I hope you are doing amazing since our last call. We got to start a tradition or something of some sort where we have a little bit of a welcoming intro, but that's something for another time. I hope you are doing amazing. I hope you're doing fantastic from our last psychological call. System wins championships. This is going to be the name of our series of psychological call. Every week or every other week, I will be releasing one, diving into the concept of building successful systems. Because at the end of the day, you have to realize something. If you really and if you genuinely want to build a successful trading career, it doesn't really matter. There is a parallel across successful stories. The parallel across any story that you come across where someone grinded for many years, they didn't really see any sort of breakthrough, and then out of nowhere they broke through, and it's not random. Behind that story is someone that have embraced suffering. Behind that story is someone that had embraced the process, that had embraced the identity that they had built and they have transformed into. Without that embrace, it is almost impossible to maintain the stamina in that journey. So you have to understand that the very first thing that you need to understand is that you cannot fake it until you make it. You cannot have some minor profit P&L and then take that and try to share it on Instagram, on Twitter, and then get that little dopamine. If you're still doing this, you're very much immature in this industry. And it may seem a bit harsh the way I deliver this information, but I have to be very blunt with you. You cannot expect and hope to achieve $1 million or even six-figure, let's not even talk about $1 million. Just six figures or multiple six-figure levels of accomplishment, which in itself is already extremely rare with children's behavior and level of maturity. It is impossible. You need to first realize that this is mature as a professional trader, as a business owner, to do stuff like that, right? To run and look for validation outside of yourself or outside of your circle of respectable peers. And when I say peers, I mean respectable. I'm not talking about your other gambler friend who have not accomplished anything. I'm talking about someone that you can really look up to and say, you know what, I trust their judgment. I trust their judgment that they are going to tell me the truth, something that's going to be harsh. It is not going to be easy to swallow, but it is okay. And one thing that I realized over the years is that I have had very little amount of true friends in my circle over the years. Very, very small amount. But the reason why I've realized over time is because I'm very much brittle with the truth in the world where most people choose to hide their true intention out of fear of confrontation, out of fear of elevating their standard. You see, when you are real and when you are direct and very much constructive, some people may take a look at it and say, you know what, I don't really appreciate that. It could be for true reason. Most of the time when people do get criticized, if it's not something that it naturally asks for, then they may look at it as something negative. They may not even look at it as something positive because it was not warranted. It was not something that they essentially asked for. If someone did not ask for advice, you never really want to put your foot forward and try to be that person. People will just never appreciate advice or help that was never asked for. And I know it sounds backward. You look at someone and you see that they're going through a rough time, and then you think that offering a helping hand, offering an advice might be able to help them get to the next level, but they take that advice and essentially look at you as someone that's looking down upon them. Sounds crazy, but I'm telling you right now, it's one of the main reasons why over time I learned that lesson the hard way. And I had to learn that the hard way because I'm someone that always wanted to help other people. I think it has come from this very weird complex that I had growing up as the oldest in my family. I'm the oldest of 3 younger siblings. I have 2 younger brothers and 1 younger sister. Growing up, my brothers and I would sometimes, get in trouble. I'm not perfect. And I know I was in no way, shape or form I'll ever try to claim that I had this amazing upbringing. I was born in Africa. We were raised in Africa. Yes, we did travel, been around the world here and there, but eventually came to DC. Living in DC, Maryland, we literally lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. I shared 1 bedroom with my 2 younger brothers, and my mom had her own bedroom. Literally, we shared a bunk bed. We barely had any place to sleep and stuff. And this was the case until I left when I was about 19, 20 to begin my own journey and live by myself while still going to college and finishing some certification and education and stuff. I wasn't brought up in some type of I didn't have an amazing spoon-fed or a silver spoon in my mouth, like type of upbringing. I really had to get it out of the mud, growing up, me and my younger siblings, I understood what the struggle that we went through. My goal, my vision as the older brother was always, how can I make the life of my younger siblings better? Because we grew up without our father. Our father left when I was about maybe 5 years old, and we are half French, half Cameroonian. So he's French and my mom is Cameroonian. He left when he completed his, he retired essentially from boxing for France. He went to live in France because he got offered a really nice, sizable package for retirement. And I kid you not, I've had barely any memory of that, and and I'm the oldest in this situation. So I always had felt like I needed to look out for my younger sibling because I wanted to be there for them, because I didn't have that for myself. I didn't have someone to look up to, but I had great masculine figures like uncles and so on and so forth, but that need was always there for me. So I wanted that for my younger siblings. So when they would get in trouble, I would always be the one to try to cover for them. When they would do something and I knew my mom would essentially get the whip, the belt, and get them the belt, I would feel that pain. I would sympathize, I empathize with the fear that they will have. Even if I did not do anything negative or wrong, there was always this expectation on me, which was, if you're doing well, you need to make sure your younger siblings are doing well. And I try my best to be as good of a brother, even if I didn't necessarily feel like I always succeed. But as I've grown older and mature, I've now tried to give them advice and guidance. My younger siblings just became a dad middle of last year, and building his family now and everything else, getting married and building his family, and it's quite an amazing thing to see. My other younger siblings, the one that follows right after him, my other younger brother, is still figuring out his life, and I truly believe doing his best and dealing with anxiety and a bunch of other things, as any young man would growing up in this society. The reason why I say as any other young man would is because you are the product of the environment that you are brought up in. So if you're not careful, that environment can either swallow you if you're not careful, or it can mold you to be something very strong. So I really believe everybody mature at their own pace and their own time. You can't really force it. You just have to let them experience that. And then that's just the stage where my other younger brother, that is just the stage that my other younger brother is in right now. And I've always had this, I guess, big brother complex of mine, wanting to always look out for my younger siblings and looking to making sure that they are well taken care of and stuff and things of nature. But as I left my home and started venturing on my own, I started to realize that it was not necessarily the best of characteristic to have when navigating the world of business, when navigating the world in general. People are not going to always appreciate you going and trying to essentially behave as if you are their big brother, always looking out for them and things of nature, even if it's with the best of intention. And it took me a long time to realize this, because I used to get upset at people not appreciating the effort that I would put towards helping them, making sure that they're taken care of, always making them feel like, I'm looking for them. But as you get past a certain age, I realized that nobody want to feel like, they're anybody's younger brother, especially men, even women, I would say. If you talk to them as if you're helping them, or they may look at that, from your perspective, you may see as if you are helping them, but from their perspective, they actually see something completely different. They'll see that you are maybe looking down upon them. They maybe see that they're dumb or stupid for not understanding what you're breaking down to them. And sometimes the way that we break certain things down or we explain certain things can come across as condescending, and we may not even be aware, not to make excuse for anybody, not necessarily looking at a positive outlook of being helped. But I'm just saying, when we do certain things from a perspective of, I know better, a lot of the time you may not be realizing that you might not be doing it in a way where it's best for the other person to receive that information. I say this to say, not to take too much of a different direction on a psychological call, is that there are things that may hinder you from your purpose and the thing that you are supposed to be focusing on, right? You may be getting to the point in trading where you're doing really well, you're starting to learn different concepts and you want to share it out in the open world, in the public. You do really well and you want to go out and put it on social media and put it on everywhere. You want to start talking to find a way to help other people and things in nature. But you need to remember this: if you do it the wrong way, you might find yourself in a worse position than you were in originally. You might find yourself creating more enemies. You might find yourself building more barrier and more, a destroying bridge that you had prior. And that's not really what you want to do earlier on in your career. Early on in your career, you want to be a sponge. You want to be absorbing as much as possible. Because if you're not absorbing and then you're doing most of the talking, especially in your first year as a trader, you are essentially doing everything wrong. If you have not seen a full cycle or a full yearly cycle of trading and back tested at least 2 years worth of data, you should not be doing any talking. You should be in full study mode. You should be in full study mode. You need to earn the right to talk. You need to earn the right to educate. It's not everybody that can do that. So the reason why I bring my personal story into this, the reason why I tell you this is because in life, confidence sometimes can be mistaken for arrogance without us realizing it. The same can be said, the same can be in parallel in the way that we trade. If you have not earned the right to size up, if you have not earned the right to trade on a live account and then put real money at risk, real hard saving that you have worked really hard for multiple weeks, maybe multiple months at risk, why are you doing that? It is not self-trust. Why are you trying to educate someone about something that you have yet to master? It is not confidence. It's not self-trust. It is arrogance without proof, right? It's arrogance masked as confidence. The difference between arrogance and confidence, right? It's a fine line. It's a very fine line, but it's a very clear line. It is having proof and having accomplishment and receipt behind it. When you have that, you can always even lead with that, and it can allow you to even believe yourself. But a lot of the time, when you know you're BSing, when you know you're creating some type of a BS narrative to essentially push your line, push whatever you're trying to essentially sell, you will catch yourself in the process of doing so. How does this even tie into system win championship talk conversation that we've been having since our first episode? It's very, very simple. You cannot build a system on lie. It's that simple. You cannot build a system on arrogance, which is essentially confidence without proof. You can't skip that process. You must go through it. And by allowing yourself to go through it, you can find yourself discovering something brand new about your ability. And then you can also discover something very unique. And I'm going to talk about this because if you master this concept and principle, which is developing true confidence, not arrogance, right? Learning to preserve your ability to speak until you develop that true confidence, right? So you're not essentially like turning off potential mentor, turning off potential amazing information that can help further improve your processes, further improve your system of trading. Like that's the most important part. The reason why the first year and a half, you don't want to do any teaching. You don't want to do any sort of like, you can bounce off idea. You can talk about different things, but you need to make sure that your language align with information reception, right? Sometimes our language can be very detrimental to the way that we're learning and developing as trader. So if you have to be careful and pay attention to how your language aligns with your purpose and with your current state and phase in your life. So if you're in a phase where you're learning, you're still developing a skill, you have not really built that self-trust or those receipts to prove to yourself that, okay, I have done enough of the work to begin shifting phases. Your language should not change. Your language should still be exactly the same. I'm going to give you an example. In my first year, I did not know about market maker model, for example, within ICT concept. I did not know about RL to ERL, which is really the way to understand how to trade continuation versus trading reversal when you're looking at smart money concept. There was a lot of things that I did not understand. So all I was doing was learning. There was another person named Joe Johnson, which he had gotten maybe about 6-figure in payout. Alfred Kashindi on Twitter. Those two guys, and then also ICT or Kit on Twitter, is one that has the acronym, the ICT concept name on Twitter. Kit, we call it Kit. Those three probably were like my biggest mentor in my first year of really diving into smart money concept and ICT concept. And they taught me a lot because I was just a student. I was just simply absorbing as much as possible, but my language was also aligning with that. And I can see how my language evolved over time. So in the very first year when I was essentially learning from them, I was doing a lot of question asking, and then I was very intentionally looking for ways to even ask better and better questions to perfect my way of absorbing the right information to perfect my system. That's what I was thinking about. Now, if I'm letting my ego take over, and I'm starting, like, let's say if I have some level of success and I'm trying to go out there, let's say we had a space, for example, which was where I would ask a lot of questions. We had space where we joined and essentially talk. Now, if my focus was on my ego and trying to share information, not necessarily absorb information, the moment I'll have a meeting with those people at any given point, and then they start talking, guess what I would try to do? I will listen to respond. I will listen to try to share things, but not listen to really absorb.
That's what I mean by like focus on understanding what is your language when you're in certain room and certain phases in your life. Because if you're in a phase of learning but you're listening to respond, you listen to just share information out of like ego because you want to get what you want to get out because you feel like it's so smart. And guess what? You're not going to really maximize your potential of absorbing information. You want to be a student in the very first phase of learning, like in that very first phase when you're still learning. You want to be a student, you want to be a master, you want to master your craft. The only way to do that is by absorbing as much as possible. Now, in that second phase where I'm at right now, that next phase where I essentially figure out what exactly is my model, I perfected it, I built some concept and essentially build my own lane. And I know my data very well. I have over 7 years of data across all my model, most of my model, and some of my even newer model, I have at least 3 to 4 years, some even 5 years of data. Like I can speak with conviction that very few people can. If I go in a room, like let's say with Kate and a bunch of other people and I'm talking, now I can speak with authority because not only I've gotten paid out, I've gotten a certain level of income now, 2 years in a row of over 6 figures. Previous year, close to 200,000, just around 200,000. This year or more, like this past year, I just crossed 180,000. I'm essentially very much close to the top 1% or the very 1% of all trader in terms of performance and achievement. I earned that right to come into a room and now being able to be an authority and then to do both, right? To be able to listen and also absorb information at the same time. But you first need to be a student if you want to be a leader. You cannot still be learning without any sort of receipt and any sort of proof, without any sort of system. And then wanting to already be the teacher in that whole process, that's not going to work. You have to pay your dues. If you don't sow your seed, there's nothing to reap. If you don't sow with early work ethic and early dedication, you cannot reap the benefit of it. So all that is part of building a profitable system, all that is part of building a profitable process for longevity. It's part of becoming that will really allow you to transform your physiology, to transform your mindset, to transform your being. Because once you understand this, it allows you to not only transition from someone who's thinking about outcome to process and essentially system, but it allows you to also almost transcend and become a different being. Because you start to understand why when they say that people are able to lose everything that they have built in their entire life and still be able to find a way to rebuild it, or they will know they will be able to rebuild it. And you hear that and you say, how is that even possible? I know this deeply because I built a multiple 6-figure business. I lost most of it, if not all of it. And then went into trading, utilized the same exact principle that got me there, and was able to recreate similar level of success in this specific space, utilizing those same principle, which I'm describing here on System Wins Championship, Not Defense series. So I hope today's episode was really insightful, and you guys gained a lot of insights in regards to how to take upon the mentor of building system in order to allow you to scale and continue to maintain your process, which will eventually help you consistently maintain your achievement, but also focusing on embodying that. Because if you don't embody that personality, if you don't embody those characteristics, it can never become part of you. So as I release this, I really want you to listen to this multiple times. There might be things in here that clicks the first time. There might be things that does not click right in there, but I really want you to do so because eventually something will click. Right? Because if you listen to this the first time, maybe after 2-3 months, you come back and re-listen to this, I promise you there's something else that will click. With that said, I'll end this call as I always end it. I pray that you guys find success this year of 2026. Currently, it is January of 2026. We're heading into February of 2026. We have very few days left. You ended the year of 2025, maybe saying to yourself that you wanted to accomplish something massive this year, but I want you to cut off any sort of timeline in terms of your achievement. I want you to focus on the process. I pray that you understand that your outcome, your desire for outcome is not the way. Your desire for outcome is actually stopping you from getting there. However, it's the desire for process that will get you there. I pray that you understand that this year. I pray that you understand that the goal that you are seeking to accomplish will only come to fruition if you allow yourself to submit yourself to the process, the excellence of the execution of your process and your system. I pray that you understand that building a system that's unique to you, unique to your personality, your characteristic is what would allow you. I pray that you understand that your strength is in listening. I pray that you understand that your strongest ability are untapped. You have yet to discover them. I pray that you really truly understand that. And once you do, nobody will ever be able to stop you. I pray that you understand that system is the way that you build $1 million legacy, $1 billion legacy. And the moment you understand that, nobody can take it away from you. I pray for your success and everything 2026 has to offer for you. Until next time, I hope you stay safe, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day or evening, regardless of when you're listening to this. Peace and love.